We have an older kitchen, and sometimes you get into this problem where the tension is gone out of the hinge, and so it doesn't close anymore like that does. You see, that's actually closed to the rubber stop. So that presents us with an issue, but thanks to the Home Depot Seeds program, we have the brown double touch latch with strike, model number 1002782612. Let's see what's inside this little tiny bag. Cutting the bag open reveals one striker with little dimples on it so it can catch on the wood. There's actually two of those because it is a double touch latch. Then you have a little baggie with a total of 6 screws, 2 for that and 4 for the actual latch. It's plastic, it's brown, it has magnetic strips, and the way this thing works, well, here, let's give you some dimensions. Overall dimensions on this, it's just about 2.5, and width, almost 2.5 there also. So, you know, in my palm, it'll fill it up. So finding a location that gives you enough wood to mount may be a challenge. We're going to find out shortly. As I was saying a little bit earlier, though, the way this works is you screw this to the door. You screw this somewhere inside the cabinet so that when you close the door, the strike plates push down and oh, that's problematic. You see this one already caught and it latches and the spring's under tension. So when you push on the door again, it pushes the door out. This one doesn't want to do that. And let's see, the reason appears to be because there's this little bit of plastic that's left over. Oh, maybe it's not plastic. It's a piece of metal. Yeah, it's a piece of metal because it attaches to the magnet. Okay, so what happens is, if my thumb is a strike plate, it pushes the plunger in and then it stays into position holding the door. When you push on the door again, it pushes out the door. So it gives it a nice touch because instead of grabbing the handle, you can just push in and the door should pop out. All right, so now that we know how this works and we fixed the little minor defect, that straight piece of metal there left over from manufacturing, we're going to mark on this door where, not on the door, on the inside. You see we have a little piece of wood here. The thickness of this is 3/4 of an inch. So if we're mounting this here, we have an overhang. So we could mount this with 2 screws and then the rest would hang off, or we could put some really long screws to get into that back. But again, let's see, what's the depth of that? 1 inch. So maybe get a scrap piece of wood to flush this out, and then you can mount this latch with all 4 screws, or go with 2 screws and hope that there's no damage. Now, looks like at one time somebody had drilled in here for something. Maybe there was an old latch. But anyway, we're going to try to install this so that our cabinet door latches. So I'm going through the garage, found a piece of scrap wood. Unfortunately, it's 3/4 of an inch thick, and I need 1 inch. but it's long this way. So the idea is that I can mount it like this, catch the last two holes, right? Mounting holes, screw that into this wood, and then this will give me the desired inch from the side of the cabinet so that this will end up being level with the front edge of the cabinet where the first two holes are going to go to. So I'm going to mark it up with a square, do a little measurement, and cut that out. So that's one way to get 3/4 to work if you got a nice piece of board. Using a carpenter's square, I've sized up the cut that I need, and now I'll just put a jigsaw to it and cut this out. Using a bit that's just slightly smaller than the screw, I put a hole in the block. Now I'm going to attach the latch, the back holes of the latch, to the block. And what that'll enable me to do is, it'll actually enable me to screw the front to this piece of wood while this block is just free floating, and that'll give me some room to move this back and forth. And then when I'm happy with it, I can remove the screws and actually screw this to the cabinet or put some glue. You know, yeah, it'll be fine either way, whether I screw it in or glue it down. But this gives me just a little bit leverage, and by putting this screw hole here, I can set this in and then do my final alignment. You'll notice that one hole is round, one is rectangular. They do the opposite on the other side so that you have a little bit of wiggle room to work with. Not so crucial for what I'm doing here right now. Again, one screw here, then I'm going to drill another little pilot hole and put the other screw there. We see the screw is in. I've aligned this, and now I am ready to put another hole right here. I'm in the kitchen, so I can't make too much of a mess. I drop in the rounded screw because the flat ones are used for the strikers, and it goes fairly easy since I'm using a pine. All right, so that's in. Now you'll see that the block of wood gives me my 1 inch, and I have a little bit of adjustment so that when this door closes, I want to be just out enough so that when you push on it, it disengages and opens the door at the end. So you need to allow for that little bit of space. You know, and unfortunately, I forgot to mention this, there are no instructions that come with this. You just sort of have to figure it out on your own. So another reason why I'm making this video is that we can figure it out together. What you're looking at is 2 pieces of metal that came off the latch. And they actually were causing problems because one got behind here and it was preventing the latch from fully seating. So quality control, a little bit of a problem for Everbilt. Okay, so our next challenge is exactly, since I got this piece of wood attached, now how far back do I push this? I mean, do I do it so that this is flush? Well, I think not, because when you close the door will be here, so you have all this space, which is a lot. But at the same time, you have to allow for the door being pushed in so that it pops out. So I think that if I'm flush with this surface, you know, when it's pushed all the way in, if that's like here, then I think this will work and the door will close pretty much flush So I'm going to try that. I'm going to see if I can get a pencil in there to mark where I need the drill, and then we'll see if that works. Don't forget that you have a height limitation due to your power tool or whatever you're using to put a little pilot hole in there. I'd like to be higher, but my tool gets in the way. If I wanted to come up this way, then I have the issue that where am I going to put my little backboard since the drawer's right there. So I'm pretty much stuck with this location, but we're going to make the best of it. So we've secured the latch. Now we need to determine where the striker needs to be. So I just magnetically attached it to the plunger, and then I pressed the door up against it, and because it has these two little nubs, I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, there's one there, and there's another one right there, very faint. But I'm going to drill my hole in between because that's the way it lines up there. And so I have an alignment for the striker. We have our striker plate attached, and we've come up with two issues. One, the screw that holds the cabinet handle is going to be in the way. Fortunately, it's about the same thickness as the striker plate, so I may be able to use it as a substitute for the striker plate, or I could offset the striker plate a little bit. But my main concern is that when I close this, you see there's still a gap there. And so that means that this entire unit needs to move back. Now, because this block is just floating, I only need to unscrew this, drill 2 new holes, and then reattach, and I should be set. As you can see, we have our second striker in place. Had to offset it a little bit due to the screw being in the way, which connects to the handle, but that's fine. On this end, I had to use what little play I had on here. Remember, one is circular, one is rectangle, the opening, and then it's the reverse on the bottom. So I used all of that rectangle to push this forward so that this would catch. And then I ended up having to drill another little hole for this one. And here are the results. You close, it holds, you push, and it pops open. And you see only the top plunger did the pushing out, this one didn't, which tells me that it's right on the edge, because you see here both plungers are out now. So this needs to come forth just a little bit, but I've used all the play in my rectangular opening. So there's nowhere for me to go other than to drill another hole, but it would be so closely spaced that I just probably create a big hole, and then I won't be able to adjust it at all. So I'm just going to let that go. Originally, I was going to glue this or screw this block into the back, but I'm just going to let it float back there because it doesn't affect the integrity of it. And it does what I wanted it to do, which is to close and then to open. So I think we succeeded. Things I don't like about this product are: 1, no instructions. 2, there were bits of metal, pieces of magnets in the package, which were actually getting into here, and as we saw at the very beginning, not allowing one of the plungers to work. I think that's a little sloppy on their end. It's plastic, which is fine. It's huge, but they do sell one that's a single plunger. So that's on me. Should have brought the smaller one. I should have gotten the smaller one. Anyway, I think they come in one other color than brown. I'm not sure, but brown's fine. You know, it's covered. I'm not all that super picky about that. The fact that you need to secure it in 4 places can present a problem. We solved it by using a block. So, maybe you need to be aware of that when you go to buy this unit. And perhaps we could have gotten away with 2, but I felt more comfortable with this having a support in the back so that there was no pushing it up or down as you're closing the door and torquing the piece. Other than that, I like it. So it got the job done. No instructions. It's a bit of a pain to install because you're futzing around and there's no template or any guide, and you're kind of just making this stuff as you go along. So those are the things I would ding it for, but it does the job. So I'm happy. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would. Would I recommend the product? Yeah, if you're good at, finessing and improvising, then yes, this will work for you. If you're not, then I'd skip this and maybe go with the single plunger version of it. Hope you found this video interesting and useful. If you did, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment. Don't forget to join the subscription team. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.